And welcome in, everyone, to the 5 Sports Show. I'm Atticus Pead. Grateful to have you joining us. We're here from the remote studio today, if you will. I'll be starting you off here from the studio, and Cam Murray and Zach Anderson will join us after I speak to you for a few minutes, give you a few thoughts on what happened in the West Virginia and Ohio game today. They went to Athens. They'll have more from the field. Also, make sure to check out our website and our social media channels for highlights of the game, more post-game coverage from Athens, Ohio, and beyond. For now, though, we start you here with, well, whatever that was really poor, to put it kindly. 17-10, West Virginia loses to Ohio. 0-3 in Athens are the Mountaineers looking for their first ever win today in Athens against the Bobcats. That very clearly did not happen, and that was about as miserable as it could have been. So earlier this week, I'd mentioned on our previous show and on a few other shows throughout the week for our station that I thought this game would be very close. I thought WVU would win by 1 or 2 points, but Ohio would keep it interesting all the way up to the end, and that WVU would make one big play, one big stop on defense to get things going. Well, they made the big stops. They had the 3 picks, and wow, that offensive performance was exceptionally poor. And that's the hardest part about this. It's the quarterback. It's everything in general. There just was nobody able to make a big play today. Mark Hill, of course, is the player I have here on our background. Being the starting quarterback, you get the share of the blame. You get the biggest share of the blame. You get the biggest share of the credit when things go right. Today, he didn't do much right. Jalen Henderson, I think Rich Rodriguez wanted to have someone make a spark. Jalen Henderson would have stayed in if he could make a pass. He can't. So Mark Hill was the guy, and you saw how that turned out. 10 points against Ohio. And frankly, you saw that game. Ohio looked like the 85 Chicago Bears out there. West Virginia was awful on offense. I don't think that can be overstated. That was really exceptionally poor. From a Rich Rodriguez team, too, that's a bit tough to stomach. You've seen the Neil Brown offenses. Plenty of bad. Of course, you remember a lot of bad games from the past. But there were a lot of good things, too. And this is not to opine for the the Neil Brown era instead of Rich Rodriguez. It's not that at all. This is a growing process. It's a growing pain. It's part of the process of bringing in 81 new players. You're going to have some stumbles. You're going to have some tough blocks, things to overcome along the way. This was one of them. And losing to a MAC team like this is a tough one to stomach. So I think my first reaction from the game today is, look, if you think of all the coaches out there, plenty of great coaches, all the great coaches really, they have a bad loss on their resume, right? You start your tenure off, you get a bad loss. Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe, with Alabama, right? Plenty of teams, plenty of coaches have bad losses when you start a new tenure. It happens. It really does happen. This just really felt a bit different, though. There was just no talent out there. And we'll get to some of the players who left injured in just a minute, but that was the biggest takeaway from me. Boy, West Virginia is seriously devoid of talent. Robert Morris, put that game aside. Morris is nothing compared to what Ohio was today. And again, Ohio looked way better than I think WVU really could have expected them to look. Just West Virginia kind of played into their hands, and especially offensively. That's what I want to really touch on here. West Virginia's offense was just really bad, and there just isn't anyone who's that difference maker. Cam Vaughn is the only guy. How many passes did you see go beyond 15 yards out there? Cam Vaughn and Jalen Bray were the only guys who were able to catch those passes, or who were the only people who were even aimed at for those passes, apart from a couple of out routes from the tight ends. There just isn't really much out there for WVU right now, and that is a real problem. And better teams in Ohio are going to make you pay for that really quickly for the Mountaineers. So obviously, I think everyone's first taste from this game is a pretty bad loss, right? So that's what we're sort of focusing on here to start. I think there is still good that comes out of this, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But the bad, there's a lot of it. Offense, of course, is the number one thing that's going to stand out to you. Third down offense, atrocious. And I mean, you saw the end of the game there. It was really indicative of what happened all game. West Virginia's offensive line is not good enough. They are not going to stand up well to a Big 12 test. They have to improve in a hurry, and they have to really figure out what they're doing offensively. Because if you hold a tight end in, and a few times West Virginia would try that, they try to hold the tight ends in to chip blockers or help out, get 6 guys on the line. Did it matter ever? It really didn't. And that is really tough to stomach against a MAC team. It's on the road, I get it, but that's a MAC team. And Ohio's a good MAC team, but again, this is not Big 12 competition. You're going to face a lot better teams, and that's going to start next week with Pitt, and that's going to go on beyond that. So I think West Virginia's got a lot to fix, and a lot to fix quickly, and I'm not sure how quickly you can do that in year one. But that's the biggest problem here. In the portal era, you've probably seen other teams out there. You remember Arizona State from last year going from worst to first in the Big 12. largely due to the transfer portal. You see a lot of teams out there go from worst to first or have these big turnarounds due to the transfer portal in year one or year two of their new coaching staffs. I don't think this year one is going to be that for West Virginia. I think that's pretty obvious to most of you at home too. there still may be good that comes out of this year, of course. We're only on game 2. Everything's not over yet. You've got 10 games left. There's plenty to prove. You can wipe the slate clean pretty quickly if you can beat Pitt, if you can beat Utah, you can beat BYU, you can get off to a good Big 12 start. But, I mean, let's be honest here. Do any of you guys think that's going to happen after this? I don't know, is putting it kindly. That was rough today. And so it's just pretty clear West Virginia doesn't have the talent to compete right now. And it could just be that the talent's not there yet or prepared yet because of how quickly everyone came in. These 81 new players, the vast, vast majority of them came in late in the summer. There just isn't enough time to gel people that quickly, especially not with a new coach and a new system. I know Rich Rodriguez knows West Virginia, but this is a new system to everyone in the program that you haven't been around for the school itself in nearly 2 decades. And for the players, it's totally new. And so it is just a whole different ball game out there. And it's pretty clear, again, West Virginia doesn't have the talent this year to make that work. This doesn't mean that everything's lost for Rich Rodriguez. It's not. It's one loss. It's a bad loss, but it is one loss. He's got plenty of opportunities to change things, get better, everything like that. I think the players will do that too. There's plenty of improvement left to be had for West Virginia here. And this doesn't end anything, of course. You're a 1-1. The Big 12 Conference is where it's at. You win games there, you can turn things around pretty quickly. And of course, the Pitt game is a big chance to turn things around, where you may get an extra boost that you may not get in other games from the fans, from the home field advantage, and so on, from the rivalry game. But it's got to start somewhere, and it sure wasn't starting today. And yikes. Again, just a really, really bad loss offensively. I don't think any of us thought West Virginia would score 10, maybe 30-31, 31-34, something like that. 10 points against Ohio? Not good. And so I think there are a lot of concerns that come out of this too. In this transfer portal era, you have to wonder how much this means for the future here. Again, it is game 2. I'm well aware of that. But you have to wonder here, is West Virginia's lack of talent just because it's early in the season, all the players are new? Is it just this was a tough game at Ohio? They're just, you can't really say intimidated. That's basically a high school stadium with 27,000 people. It's not that loud. I don't really know what the answer is there, of course. Only the players and the coaches will know that, and we'll see how much they share of that in their post-game press conferences and beyond over the coming week. But as fans, I think you have to wonder, does West Virginia, can they attract the talent needed to compete in this new transfer portal era? We already know it's difficult to get the money you need to pay your players, especially at WVU. Obviously, they're looking for any opportunity to fundraise they can. If you saw over the summer, West Virginia announced licensing deals and stuff like that with Planet Fitness and a realtor company or official realtor of WVU football and stuff like that. Not to knock that. Those are great things. But the problem that comes with that is, you just have to look for any opportunity to get the money you can to pay players. And I think that's a question that a lot of us have in the back of our minds. Does West Virginia have the money? Do they have the opportunity they can present to people to bring in the best players, the most talented players? I'm not sure they do. And speaking of those talented players, the big losses from today, of course, the big loss from today, it's Jaheim White. White going down really altered the game, I think, offensively for WVU. They couldn't run after that. And it wasn't just that they couldn't get first downs from running. They could not run, period, after that. That was a really tough loss for West Virginia. And I understand that it happened on a horse collar tackle. I understand there was a penalty flag thrown, everything like that. But Jaheim White getting hurt in the second game of the season is really the big concern with him. He's a great player, tremendous player, so much speed, so much electricity. It's game 2. He can't be the feature back if he's going to get hurt like this. Again, I understand it's an illegal tackle, but you've got a lot to prove in order to be the feature back, and a big part of that is from durability. And West Virginia needs a second guy to step in and take some of the carries off so he can be that guy over the full course of the season. And obviously, they just don't have that. Clay Ash, the backup tonight, they couldn't really hand off to him, period. Maybe a guy like Ty Edwards could be that, but Edwards was, of course, held out by NCAA transfer rules until a judge ruled in his favor late in August. It's been 3 weeks. That's it. There just isn't enough time, I think, to gel the team quickly, and that's what I'm getting at here with the talent and the transfer portal for WVU. I think West Virginia is better than what you saw today. I think a lot of us think that. But the biggest problem you have here is there just isn't enough time to put this together, and then that leads into the bigger issues, of course. Is there enough talent in the pipeline at WVU? Is this just going to be a tough year? That is what it is, but the talent's there. It's going to come out next year. Or is it that West Virginia maybe can't attract the game breakers that you really need to win games? Obviously, Cam Vaughn, we think may be that guy, but they couldn't get it done today, and Vaughn couldn't get the plays. There was, of course, that big pass on, second down, 2nd and 8. It was a really long pass towards, I think they would have had it inside the 10-yard line, but then that pass was, of course, called back after video review. Seemed pretty iffy, of course, but It's hard to overturn plays when you don't have concrete evidence, and that sort of seemed to be the case there. And then, obviously, apart from Cam Vaughn, nobody could get any separation. Again, this is Ohio in the MAC. This is not the Big 12. This is not the Big 12 defenses you're going to be playing soon. This isn't Pitt's defense you're going to play next week. It's not Utah's you're going to play after that. And if you're putting up 10 against Ohio, good luck against those guys. It may be a lot more difficult, I'd say. So I think my concerns for WVU today, again, this is game 2. This is not an apocalypse. It sounds like that because of all the bad that happened and the bad you focus on after something like this. I think there's still plenty of good left for West Virginia. The problem is you just didn't see any of it today. I don't think there's any sugarcoating that. No matter how good we may think West Virginia can be, or no matter how much talent you think there may be in the tank, none of it showed today. And the biggest problem with that is just that's such a blow to your confidence ahead of some really big games coming up quick. And speaking of blows to confidence, I think Nico Marchiol, a lot of questions come out now in terms of what we do at quarterback or what you can do at quarterback for going forward here. Jalen Henderson just couldn't step in and play. Henderson couldn't throw. He couldn't hit passes. Marchiol could hit some passes, but then you saw it on the last play of the game. You need to throw a Hail Mary. You need to get the ball out, and he's getting sacked again. There were so many third downs, deep possessions. There was a 3rd and 20 on here with Jalen Henderson. Obviously not the same as Marchiol, but they both had the same problem here. They could just never get the ball out to anyone. The amount of risks taken on deep throws, very few, very little in terms of big play opportunities. Losing Gene White, losing Jaden Bray, those really hurt. And I think West Virginia going forward has a lot to ask themselves in terms of what they do offensively from here. One of the best things that Ohio did all game against WVU's defense, I think West Virginia's defense was the best unit on the field today. And I think they really showed they could do that throughout the entire game. But Ohio knew how to wear them down. And then they had the best player on the field in Parker Navarro, in the quarterback. West Virginia's defense made plenty of plays. Obviously, the 3 picks, they made some stops, made a bunch of big, that big red zone opportunity for Ohio that they ended up just keeping to a field goal. West Virginia's defense can really play. I think there's a lot of talent there, or maybe not the perfect talent in terms of, holding everything up that you'd think, but I think West Virginia's defense really has showed something today that they can be a good unit. But again, when your offense scores 10 points, it may not matter. And so from here, you have to look at Ohio's offense, how they bled the clock so well. They just kept drives moving and moving and moving. And West Virginia's defense, all the speed that you saw early in the game just kept going away and away and away because these drives would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes, 10, 12, 14 plays. And West Virginia's offense would go right out and get a 3 and out in 30 seconds and be gone. Rich Rodriguez's offense can be very good, obviously. You all know that. His offense has sprung a lot of points. But then also you look at the Michigan era, you look at the end of the Arizona era, and you look at where we are now. I just don't know that West Virginia's offense can live like this with the talent it has. If you can hit the big plays and you can score the points and you can keep the pace up all game, great. But how many 3 and outs did you see tonight? I mean, West Virginia's defense never got a chance to rest because the Mountaineer offense would go out there and do whatever they did for 3 plays. Halfback dive for a yard, curl route that was dropped or missed or something, and then look to pass, kind of roll out, maybe run for 2 yards, or nothing really happened. That's pretty much the offense. It was really, really bad. And they only scored a touchdown on the first series of the game. That's it. So going forward from here, I just think there's a lot to improve, obviously, for the offense. The defense, I think, too, can improve as well. But 3 picks, held them to 17 points on the road. I think the defense did what they were asked to do. And for West Virginia's offense, you've got to score more than 10. It's that simple. It can't be 10 points at Ohio. It just can't be that. And that raises a lot of concerns. Again, with Pitt next week coming back to Morgantown, hopefully there's an opportunity at home. Get in front of the fans, get some big plays, galvanize yourselves. But boy, if this is how you play against Pitt, that could be a lot worse. This is not going to be 17-10. It could be a lot worse than that. So again, the good and the bad here, I think, shine through really well in a game like this. The bad is, of course, everything I've talked about. The good is, it is Pitt coming up. You will get the rivalry boost at home. Everyone wants to beat Pitt. You all know it. So rivalry games never go the way you'd expect, right? And if West Virginia can keep it close, if West Virginia can get out to a good start, get the fans in there, get things going well, get off to a good start, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. If you can beat Pitt, if you can win a few Big 12 games in the next 4 or 5 weeks, I think a lot of us will put the Ohio game in the back of our minds. It's early in the Rich Rodriguez era. This does not define the team. It doesn't define this era of him. It's just a tough way to start it. So again, from here, it may be wise to temper your expectations. I initially called for a 5-7 season at the start of our podcast here, the 5 Sports Show. I said 5-7 seasons is what I'd expect. Shooting for a bowl game is the target. That is still the target. I'm not sure you can get to 5-7 if you're playing like this. And if Jaheim White's out for more than a week or two, who's going to run the ball? I don't know who can run it. It may need to be Jalen Henderson back in at quarterback because he can run. Marchiol was getting run down by everyone out there. And so from here, there's just a lot of questions left to be answered for WVU. And I mean, going forward, you hope this doesn't continue against Pitt, because the biggest problem was the timidity today. West Virginia was so timid. I was texting my dad about how the game was going, and he sent back to me at the end of the first half, boy, West Virginia really is timid. I think that summed it up pretty well. There were just no big play opportunities out there. Hardly anything happened on offense. It was just so droll. What do you remember from the game, apart from the touchdown, the Cam Vaughn Neely catch that got overturned, Jaheim White getting hurt? What on earth did they do on offense? I watched the entire game. I've got my whole notebook here with stuff that happened in it. There are like maybe 2 plays of offense that I recorded in this because it was so bad. So as we go forward from here, there's just so much you have to answer and do going forward. And it seems like West Virginia just needs a lot of time to get things together. And you don't have that time, right? You had a small step into the season with Robert Morris, a much bigger step up to Ohio, and now you get a much bigger step up to Pitt. How well can you answer that step up? We're going to find out this week. We're going to find out quick. And I think a good game against Pitt, a win against Pitt would, of course, erase a lot of the doubts from today. And I'm not sure that's going to happen, of course. But again, this is your biggest game of the year. This is your top rival. You win this game, a lot changes. You just have to move on from what this Ohio game was, and you got to move on quickly, and not just in terms of forgetting about it as a player, but you've got to figure out pretty quick what you're going to do from here and how to make sure this doesn't happen again. ESPN showed fans leaving at 3 minutes left when West Virginia was potentially about to get the ball back, and they just were leaving then, even with only down 7 points. Even though it's only an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour drive back to your home in West Virginia, could you blame any of those fans for leaving early like that? I certainly couldn't, because that was so tough to watch. I mean, next week, that game's going to be on ESPN. Next week, you're going to be in front of a real national audience playing your biggest rival. And it's got to be better than this, because if it's like what this was today, yikes. And again, it is week 2. The world's not over, but boy, you've got a lot to fix. So we'll see if the Mountaineers can do that as we go forward. Let's turn you over now to Cam Murray and Zach Anderson. Of course, both of them went to the game. Check out our website and our social media page for more on the highlights and post-game coverage, post-game press conferences from this one. For now, though, I'll turn you over to Cam and Zach for more on what they saw out in Athens.
Well, here we are for the 5 Sports Show, live, or I guess not live, but after the game. Instant reaction, I should say.
That's true.
For a tough loss for West Virginia, 17-10 to Ohio. Now, Zach, this is the first time that Ohio has beat West Virginia since 1949.
Yeah, going back a lot of years.
Going back a lot of years. And now, the first thing I want to just talk about is the offense.
Yeah.
The offense was really nowhere to be found today. There was a few bright spots actually in the first quarter, putting a drive together, but with Cam Vaughn making a great catch and Jaheim White getting in the end zone. But altogether, Zach, the offense just was not on the same page and was not helping the defense out today.
Yeah, the defense did what it needed to do. I just talked to someone in the press box a minute ago about how West Virginia won the turnover battle 3-0 in this game. They had 3 takeaways, and still the offense couldn't get it done. That first drive, though, was impressive. You can't deny that. They went down the field. Jaheim White runs it in for the touchdown. After that, they just lost the juice, and the defense, kept them in the game, made it 17-10. Throughout the entire second half. No points scored in the second half except for that field goal by West Virginia early on in the third quarter. So the offense just wasn't quite there to back up the defense, like you said, Cam.
And while I was kind of working on the highlights, you were in the press conference. So what was Rich Rodriguez saying? What was kind of the tone of the press conference after the game today?
I mean, certainly, as we all can imagine, it was a low tone there for Coach Rodriguez. Certainly not an expected loss for this team, not something he was expecting. Obviously, he said from practice, he felt like the team was ready to go. He felt like he got them prepared enough to win this game, to come out here and compete. And he said that he didn't feel like he did a good enough job. He felt like he let the fans down, let the team down, and didn't have them prepared. So he says that's on me. He said that right from the jump. So he certainly recognizes that there was a lack of coaching there I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that he had a lack of coaching in this game. There wasn't really many game management situations that he had to make in this game, except for the end, which I thought he managed the clock well. But I'm getting on a tangent. What I'm trying to say is that he took accountability for it, and I have to commend him for that.
Yeah, that's definitely something too. But going back into the game, taking Nico Marchiol out of the game was definitely a question mark, and had me on the sideline wondering.
We thought maybe he was injured.
I didn't. And that to me was kind of like, things aren't working right now. How can we change it up? Let's try to get a spark in there. And Jalen Henderson honestly just did not provide any sort of spark for this team.
No.
And even in that first game against Robert Morris, the passing, we just know that's not something that is a strength of him as a quarterback, and maybe we can see that develop. But as of right now, I mean, when we saw Henderson come in, it just seemed like West Virginia was reeling, looking for something, and especially with Jaheim White going out and also Jaden Bray going out as well.
Yeah, 2 big injuries in this game, undeniable.
So, that's one thing too. Did that come up in the press conference? Was there any further updates on Jaheim White's health or anything like that?
A reporter asked that question to Coach Rodriguez, and he just said, I haven't talked to the trainers yet, don't have an answer for you. So it's pretty straightforward. We don't know anything else yet at this point. I mean, it's still right after the game. We're only an hour removed from the game, so we'll be sure to let you know as soon as we know something else. But that's all we know so far about those. But those were 2 crucial parts of this game and 2 crucial pieces of this game that were just gone. And another reporter also asked the question, how'd that change your offense? And he said, well, of course you have playmakers like that. It's going to change your offense. A lot of things going against West Virginia, and the injuries were just one of them too.
And I just think for Ohio, Parker Navarro, we saw what he did week 1 against Rutgers, and coming into this game, it was a big question mark. Okay, Zach Alley's been being asked all week, how are you planning to stop him? What are some things you're going to do to disrupt him? And in the first half, it looked like West Virginia kind of did have his number. That first drive for Ohio did not turn out very well, and there was a lot of great plays, tackle for loss, and it seemed like the more the game went on, the more comfortable he got in the pocket, and the more tired West Virginia's defense was, allowing him to really show his legs. And there was some times where he looked like he might have been, he might have been done for going to the sideline, and then all of a sudden turns the other way. And
he would loop and just find his way around. It was unbelievable sometimes.
I was telling you, I was just like, the only player I could remember doing something like that was Manziel in college.
I
don't want to compare the two, but in terms of his ability to really just keep West Virginia's defense on the field, and there was times where they were reeling, even though that he did make a lot of tough, decisions, trying to avoid sacks, throwing into some pressure. That's where we got the interceptions from. But with those interceptions, the offense just did not have the back of the defense.
No, they didn't.
Back-to-back 3-and-outs. The first interception in the third quarter was a 3-and-out. The next one was a 3-and-out. In the fourth quarter, that was not a 3-and-out. I think it was 5 or 6 plays, but nonetheless, it just seemed the defense was giving West Virginia a lot of great chances, and the offense just really could not continue. And like you said, it is tough with Jaheim White being out, but looking across the board, there wasn't really any semblance of these guys are coming back, and it just seemed like the
energy was lacking.
Yeah, the energy was lacking, and Ohio hadn't figured out pretty much going into the third quarter, into the fourth. Ohio's defense had Nico Marchiol figured out. They had that offense pretty much down pat.
You have to commend the game plan there.
Yes, they knew what they were expecting, and that's one thing too from the Ohio perspective. They knew what they were getting. They knew West Virginia wants to speed it up. They want to, try to get the ball, spot the ball, and move out of the way pretty much. Yeah. But with Ohio draining the clock, taking time in their possession, they were really keeping West Virginia's offense off the field, not letting them get comfortable or even hot in the game.
Yeah.
And that really did it. But any other observations you saw from the team as a whole?
Yeah, I want to touch back on Navarro. I mean, you saw the defensive line for West Virginia just getting tired. I mean, there's some big boys up in that front. They're good at stopping the run in this game, other than the quarterback scramble. That was the only run in this game they really couldn't stop. Of course, they gave up a rushing touchdown to the tailback for Ohio. I think his name was Ben Gura, I think was his last name. They gave a rushing touchdown to him, but Navarro was the one. I mean, he probably, I haven't checked the final stats. At one point in the game, we saw he had 87 rushing yards. I assume,
probably got a little more.
He got a little more at the end of this game, probably. So, Navarro, he just evaded the pocket. You evaded the defense in the pocket. You can't deny that. It was really an impressive performance from them. And then the last thing on Ohio I want to say here, too, is Coach Brian Smith, what a game for him, 17-10 win here against a Power 4 opponent. He's a first-year head coach for Ohio. And you got to say it's an impressive win for him to impress the home fans. But for West Virginia, he out-game planned you. That's just simple.
You're
simple
right.
as that. like you said earlier, just a better game plan. He knew what Nico Marchiol wanted to do, knew what Richwald wanted to do with the up tempo, and they were ready for it.
Exactly right. They were way more prepared. And in terms of like the atmosphere today, I mean, let's just tell it where it is. There was way more gold than green in this crowd. And so when I came in and I heard some of the chants, and I was thinking, well, West Virginia has their fans. They have a lot of guys. They have a lot of people here.
And we said that all week. We said that on the last 5 Sports show.
They were going to get, 60 to 70% of their fans here, and it really just didn't matter. No matter how many fans were here, no matter how loud the band was playing in that back corner over there, it didn't matter. Ohio came prepared, and West Virginia might have thought they were prepared, but Ohio's ability to stretch plays, Parker Navarro, their offense, and now the big elephant in the room, so to speak, is that next Saturday, the biggest game of West Virginia's season, awaits them right now with the backyard brawl September 13th. So, from my perspective, I was thinking we're going to go into that game 2-0, and I feel like a lot of other fans probably had that same idea, but you go into that game 1-1. Rich Rodriguez talking about taking accountability for this loss, but I mean, how do you bounce back after a loss like this and prepare yourself for the biggest game of your season coming up in just 6.5, 7 days?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right by saying this is the biggest game of the season. Every fan would agree with that. Every coach on the coaching staff, every player would agree. This is the biggest game of the season. You have to beat Pitt, your biggest rival, backyard brawl. And I'm going to use a little bit of coach speak here, forgive me, but you got to wash it. You got to wash this game. Just let it go down the schedule, let it go down in history, be done and move on. You have to prepare for Pitt. That's the biggest game of your season, and that's going to make or break how fans feel about you. Just regardless, I mean, you guys know I've watched West Virginia sports my entire life. West Virginia fans, they live and die on the Pitt game. So you need to beat Pittsburgh next week. That's got to be the focus. So you just have to wash this one away and prepare as hard as you can and try to correct where you think you lacked in terms of preparation going into this game. You just got to do things differently going into the Pitt game.
I agree. And one question I have too for maybe the players and the staff is like, if they went into this game expecting a win, or let's just say they were expecting a bigger win, not just a regular win. Let's say they thought they were going to come into this game with confidence in themselves, and now they fall flat. Well, how does that affect the locker room going into that backyard brawl game? Are guys trust? Is there the trust still there in the locker room? Are guys starting to question themselves? Is the confidence starting to take a hit? That is one thing after a loss like this. And Ohio is no, pushover program by any means.
No way. So, Mac champion.
Mac champion. Mac champion from last year, not a pushover program, and they obviously have a great, great atmosphere, great fan base.
It was a wonderful atmosphere here tonight.
It was awesome. So I'm just wondering if this affects the confidence of the guys in the locker room, and hopefully it doesn't, because you have a big test obviously for backyard brawl, and then your whole rest of your conference schedule is in front of you. So how do these guys regroup? That's going to be a major question. But
we'll be.
We will be back on Monday for another episode of the 5 Sports Show. And this was, it was a fun day. Even though it was a fun day. It was overall a fun day here. And I don't want to sound like, the former head coach. And there was nice weather and fans were out.
No, we're not doing that.
But it was a fine day. It wasn't a great game for West Virginia, but look to come back next week.
Always a chance to rebound.
A chance to rebound. And if they rebound and then win that backyard brawl game, we'll forget about this even happening.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
And there's the age-old saying, you don't want to let one loss turn to two. You don't want to get beat twice because of one game. So, to what you said, you don't want to you got to regroup. You don't want to let this game get you into a bad state for next week.
And one thing too, I'm just curious to see what Atticus has to say about this game. I know during the week he's kind of pulling for Ohio a little bit. So
I know he was.
I wonder what he had to say. But maybe you already heard it. Maybe you're about to hear it after this. Whether or not, we'll see you guys on Monday for a new 5 Sports Show episode with a complete recap of this game, a preview of the backyard brawl, maybe some high school stuff mixed in there.
Oh yeah, we'll have everything you need to know.
But that's going to end it for us in Athens here at Ohio University. I'm Cam Murray, joined by Zach Anderson for the 5 Sports Show.